Maryland State Department of Education's Office of Leadership Development and School Improvement is excited to present the Professional Standards of Educational Leaders informational webinar series. This is one of 4 webinars intended to help school leaders and their supervisors understand and use the Professional Standards for Educational Leaders, or PSEL, to improve professional practice and ultimately student outcomes. Hi, I'm Ed Mitzel. I am currently the coordinator of leadership development in the Office of Leadership Development and School Improvement for the Maryland State Department of Education.
Hi, I'm Dr. Brian Iyer. I am currently a leadership development specialist in the Office of Leadership Development and School Improvement for Maryland State Department of Education. We will be leading the discussion of the professional standards for educational leaders and how they can help inform your practice. The Office of Leadership Development and School Improvement has 3 components that work together toward a common mission for improving leadership and school performance. We provide customized professional learning experiences to support Maryland school leaders. In order to ensure a valid and reliable evaluation process, we work with local school systems to provide training, guidance, and support. Through our customized approach to providing professional learning experiences informed by data, we will improve the quality of education in Maryland schools. Our office partners with the Mid-Atlantic Comprehensive Center to support this work. We would like to introduce you to the Center's Deputy Director, Caitlin Beatson.
Thanks, Ed and Brian, and to you for joining us for this webinar series. In addition to serving as the Deputy Director of the Mid-Atlantic Comprehensive Center, I'm a Senior State Technical Assistant Specialist in the Learning Innovations Program at WestEd, and I primarily support projects that promote equitable access to highly effective teachers and leaders through evaluation and aligned professional learning and coaching. The Mid-Atlantic Comprehensive Center at WestEd, or MAC, is part of a federally funded network of 22 technical assistance centers comprised of 15 regional centers like ours that serve individual or clusters of states, and 7 national content centers providing expertise and services in specific high-priority areas. As a regional comprehensive center, the MAC works closely with state education agencies, or SEAs, in the Mid-Atlantic region, including Maryland, to establish and support the administration of programs related to federal requirements of the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, strengthen SEA organizational capacity to implement, support, scale up, and sustain statewide initiatives, build SEA leadership capacity to lead and support their LEAs in schools in improving student outcomes, and assist SEA leadership in utilizing research-based information and strategies in education reform work.
A bit about this webinar series. The sessions not only provide a high-level introduction to the 10 PSEL, but also begin to standardize the associated vocabulary and performance expectations through examples and evidence of effective practices. The series also provides foundational information upon which other future professional learning experiences from the Office of Leadership Development and School Improvement will build. The visual here demonstrates how the 10 standards are clustered, and thus how the sessions are organized. Part 1 addresses Standard 1, Mission, Vision, and Core Values. Standard 2, Ethics and Professional Norms, and Standard 3, Equity and Cultural Responsiveness, which are referred to as the drivers. Part 2 addresses Standards 4, Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment, and 5, Community of Care and Support for Students. This is what we do and how we do it. These standards represent the core. Part 3 addresses Standard 6, Professional Capacity of School Personnel, 7, Professional Community for Teachers and Staff, 8, Meaningful Engagement of Families and Communities, and 9, Operations and Management. These standards align the needs of the various components in your school in order for student learning to occur. These 4 standards are referred to as the supports. Part 4 addresses Standard 10, School Improvement. This standard stands alone in importance because it provides us with the end goal of student achievement. This standard is referred to as the anchor. These 4 webinar sessions may be viewed in any order, and within each, we'll identify the cluster, unpack each standard, provide pieces of evidence, share quotes from Maryland colleagues, and allow time for reflection. Each webinar begins with the background on the PSEL and an overview of one of the 4 clusters of standards, including a description of each related standard. The overview is followed by a focus on one of the clusters, reviewing each of the component standards and providing illustrations of practice as reflected in the Maryland PSEL evaluation rubric. Each webinar session also features quotes from Maryland school leaders talking about their own professional practice and an opportunity for you to reflect on your practice related to these specific standards. A quick reminder, this webinar series provides only an initial overview of the PSEL and is just one of the supports the MSDE will provide. This webinar series serves as a foundation to the professional learning experiences that will be developed and provided in the future. To promote engagement throughout the series and to document participation, you'll be prompted to respond to reflection questions at various points during the sessions. When you registered for the webinar, you were provided a Word document, which you can use to record your responses for submission to the MSDE. Completion and submission of this form is required for participants in the 2018-19 Promising Principals Academy and the 2018-19 Leading for School Improvement Institute if you plan to pursue continuing professional development credits. We encourage you to keep the form open in a separate window as you watch the webinar for easy access, as time for responding is provided throughout. Or you can print the form and handwrite notes and input your responses afterward. We also recommend opening a copy of Maryland's PSEL rubric for reference throughout the session.
Our work in the Office of Leadership Development and School Improvement is grounded in the professional standards for educational leaders, which were adopted by the Maryland State Board of Education in 2017. These standards shine a spotlight on each student's academic success and well-being, and were used to develop our principal evaluation rubric and guide administrator preparation programs at institutions of higher learning. The PSEL are organized around the clusters of leadership work that research and practice indicate contribute to students' academic success and well-being. In practice, these clusters don't function independently. Instead, they work in concert to comprise a system intended to propel student success. The first cluster, or the drivers, consists of standards 1, 2, and 3, which address the mission, vision, and core values, as well as a commitment to ethics and equity. The second cluster, or the core, consists of standards 4 and 5, which encompass leadership for the curriculum, instruction, assessment, and student support systems in the school. The third cluster, or the supports, consists of standards 6, 7, 8, and 9, which address building staff capacity, family and community engagement, and school operations. Standard 10 is considered to be the anchor for all of the domains and the standards they represent in the PSEL framework. This anchor encompasses the work that school leaders do to ensure that continuous improvement systems are effective in promoting each student's academic success and well-being. The Office of Leadership Development and School Improvement worked with a wide range of stakeholders from across the state, including the Community Training and Assistance Center, educational leaders from Maryland school systems, and administrator preparation faculty from Maryland institutions of higher education to develop a rubric for the professional practice measure of the evaluation. This rubric connects school leader professional practice to the PSEL and identifies the traits of each performance level across a continuum from highly effective, effective, developing, and ineffective school leaders. The rubric is a resource to inform professional learning experiences for school-based administrators that will elevate their professional practice by identifying areas of promise and opportunities for growth within each standard. The rubric provides a common language and clear expectations of a highly effective, developing, and ineffective school leader. The rubric can be used to support growth among principals as they move from developing to effective to highly effective. Principal supervisors can use the tool to customize professional learning and support as they move along the continuum from developing to highly effective. Each bullet is a descriptor within the performance level that explains the professional practice for that level. The lowercase letters found in parentheses show specific alignment to the elements of that standard in the professional standards for educational leaders. For each standard, the highly effective category embodies all of the descriptors of the effective category, as well as the additional descriptors in the highly effective category. Evaluators will assess school leaders on each standard by assigning a rating based on their level of performance: highly effective, effective, developing, and ineffective. A highly effective school leader spreads their knowledge beyond the school building. Their practices significantly improve student outcomes. Student achievement often exceeds student growth targets. Performance at this level may impact the school system, state, or on the national level. An effective school leader consistently implements effective practices that translate into improved student outcomes. Their practice frequently meets student growth targets. Performance at this level fosters robust collaboration and data analysis to establish a track record of student and school success. A developing school leader works to implement effective practices. Leaders at this level may be new to the school or new to the role. Their leadership practice makes strides, although not yet making consistent results. Performance at this level includes actions and efforts made towards promising outcomes, though outcomes for staff and students are not regularly achieved. An ineffective school leader is aware of effective practices, but inconsistently implements them with little to no student outcomes. Their leadership practice requires significant improvement through targeted intervention.
In this section, we'll transition to focusing on one of the P-cell clusters, describing the related standards in detail and identifying indicators and evidence of effective and highly effective performance. We'll share examples of practical application and evidence. This session will focus on the drivers cluster. The drivers focus on school leaders' practice in developing the foundations for success in a school community. We'll describe each of the standards within this cluster in detail, noting how those standards translate to practice. Specifically, each standard is comprised of a set of indicators that elaborate the work. The P-cell rubric further distinguishes these indicators by levels of effectiveness. Starting with the description of Standard 1, school leaders must first put into place a mission and vision that are centered on the academic success and well-being of each student. And to accomplish this, they must collaborate with members of the school and community, looking at the school's data to develop and promote that mission and vision. Additionally, school leaders must articulate, advocate for, and cultivate in all stakeholders those core values that define the school's culture and stress the importance of a student-centered education. These aspects, the mission, vision, and core values, should be present in all aspects of leadership. What will be shown here are the indicators of effective practice for Standard 1, which can also be viewed on page 7 of the P-cell rubric. Generally, effective school leaders move from an awareness of the elements to implementation of effective practices that translate into improved student outcomes. And those effective leadership practices produce desired and consistent results. Effective practices for Standard 1 include the elements of a developing school leader, as well as the 5 additional indicators I'll present here. The first indicator, the school leader must collaboratively develop and implement a shared mission and vision. The second, data and input from stakeholders must be used to inform the development of the mission and vision. The third indicator, the school leader must articulate and advocate for a core set of values that defines the school culture. The fourth, a review and evaluation of stakeholder feedback must take place regularly and collaboratively to identify strengths and address challenges. And the fifth, the school leader actually models the school's mission, vision, and core values in all aspects of leadership. At the next level, the highly effective school leader must also provide evidence that their stakeholder groups also advocate for the school's mission, vision, and core values, and additionally that they align partnerships with the school community to support implementation of the school's mission, vision, and core values. Evidence of effective practice for Standard 1 includes the development, advocacy, and enactment of a shared mission, vision, and core values of a high-quality education, again, for the academic success and well-being of each student. Some examples of evidence will be listed in the 5 bulleted items here. The first example, mission and vision statements are shared through social media and other channels with parents and community. Another example is documentation of community partnerships that are aligned to the mission, vision, and core values. A third example is evidence that the mission, vision, and core values statements were developed through a collaborative process with stakeholder input. The fourth example, various types of media being used to document activities supporting mission, vision, and core values. And finally, any climate survey data supports the implementation of a shared mission, vision, and core values. Let's take a moment now to reflect on Standard 1 using the guiding questions on the first page of the corresponding Word document. You can pause the webinar now to input your responses there, and then when you're ready to continue the session, just press play. Now shifting to Standard 2, which calls for educational leaders to act ethically and professionally in their personal conduct, relationships with others, decision-making, stewardship of their school's resources, really modeling these behaviors in all aspects of their leadership. They must act according to and promote professional norms of integrity, fairness, transparency, trust, collaboration, perseverance, learning, and continuous school improvement. They place students at the center of education and accept responsibility for each student's academic success and well-being. And furthermore, they provide moral direction for the school and promote that same ethical and professional behavior among all staff. What I'll show here are the indicators of effective practice for Standard 2, which can also be viewed on page 8 of the PSAL rubric. As with Standard 1 and the remaining standards, effective school leaders move from that awareness level to implementing effective practices that translate into improved student outcomes, producing desired and consistent results. Effective practices for Standard 2, as with Standard 1, include the elements of the developing school leader as well as the 7 additional bulleted items that will be presented here. First, student well-being must be at the center of all decision-making. Second, the school leader, him or herself, accepts the responsibility for the student's success and well-being. Third, professional duties must be fulfilled with honesty, transparency, and integrity. Fourth, the school leader and staff are held accountable for implementation of local, state, and federal laws, regulations, and policies. Fifth, the school leader promotes ethical and professional behavior among staff. Sixth, professional norms for collaborative work promote trust, respect, and equity. And finally, professional communication skills reflect the knowledge and acceptance of the diversity of all students and staff. Again, I'll share the next level. The highly effective school leader helps to inform the development or revision of school system and/or state policies focused on ethics or professional norms. She or he may lead professional learning experiences, publish reports, articles, or blogs, or even engage in public speaking events for professional organizations that advance effective ethical and professional practices of educators. Evidence of effective practice for Standard 2 should demonstrate professional practice that is ethical and aligned to professional norms as the school leaders promote each student's academic success and well-being. Some examples of evidence will be listed here. One example is that the master schedule reflects the academic success and well-being of all students. A second example, student data protocols are designed to address ethical and professional norms. A third, faculty and parent-teacher meetings follow norms for collaborative behavior. And a fourth, management of the school budget demonstrates ethical and fiscal responsibility. We'll pause again here for reflection on Standard 2. You can pause the webinar now to input your responses on the second page of the corresponding Word document. And when you're ready to continue the session, press play. The last standard included in the drivers cluster is Standard 3, Equity and Cultural Responsiveness, which requires school leaders to ensure that each student is treated fairly and respectfully with an understanding of their culture and context. They must ensure that each student has equitable access to effective teachers, learning opportunities, academic and social support, and other resources necessary for their success. and they act with cultural competence and responsiveness in their interactions, decision-making, and practice. Effective leaders address matters of equity and cultural responsiveness in all aspects of their leadership. I'll show here the indicators of effective practice for Standard 3, which you can also find on page 9 of the PSEL rubric. Again, effective school leaders move from an awareness of to implementation of effective practices that translate into improved student outcomes, leading to desired and consistent results. Effective practices for Standard 3, again, include the elements of a developing school leader, as well as the 9 additional bulleted items I'll share here. The first indicator, the school leader makes equity and cultural responsiveness initiatives a priority. The second, he or she collaboratively establishes measurable goals for equity that are informed by data. The third, the school leader collaboratively develops and implements action plans to address equity gaps. Fourth, he or she collects and analyzes data to monitor progress of those action plans. Fifth, he or she partners with stakeholders to provide learning experiences to promote cultural responsiveness and equitable practices. Sixth, the school leader aligns and allocates resources to foster equitable student learning environments. The seventh indicator, the school leader and staff are accountable for engaging in equitable and culturally responsive practices. Eighth, he or she coordinates services to address student needs. And finally, he or she involves stakeholders to develop and revise school policies on equity and cultural responsiveness. The highly effective school leader helps to inform the school system, state, or professional organizations on matters related to equity and cultural responsiveness. And they may even serve as a coach or mentor for other school leaders to support the implementation of equitable leadership practices. Evidence of effective practice for Standard 3 should be grounded in data from specific student groups. And I'll share some examples of evidence in the 6 bulleted items here. One example, professional learning communities are actually designed to collect and analyze equity data. A second example, state assessment data is used to identify equity gaps. Another example, student programs are designed to celebrate diversity and foster cultural responsiveness. Another, school resources are allocated to ensure equitable practices for all students. A fifth example, curriculum materials and lesson plans reflect culturally responsive instructional practices. And one more example, using high-quality translation services, providing materials in other languages to make them available as necessary to parents, stakeholders, and community members. We have another opportunity for reflection now, responding to the guiding questions for Standard 3 on the 3rd page of the Word document. When you're ready to continue the session, just press play. Now we'll share some insights from other school leaders, your current practitioner colleagues from across the state. Ms. Riley from Prince George's County Public Schools shared how her professional practice for Standard 1, Mission, Vision, and Core Values, maintains a focus on each student's academic success and well-being.
Stakeholders were invited to our school performance management team meeting to discuss the mission and vision and create one that encompassed all stakeholders and lent itself to be student-friendly as well. As we move throughout the school, we have worked hard to ensure that all decisions were addressed for what is best for our students. As the leaders of the school, we ensure that our actions and words also follow our mission and vision goals to ensure that we are working towards the school's goal.
Ms. Dillon from Howard County Public Schools and Maryland Association of Secondary School Principals 2017-18 Principal of the Year places the focus on each student's data.
I convene an instructional leadership team comprised of department leaders, assistant principals, a school counselor, school psychologist, social worker, athletic director, math teacher, and English teacher. The ILT meets weekly for 90 minutes, focusing on ensuring that all students are learning. Before the year begins, we look at disaggregated data and ask 3 questions. How do we keep the students at the top learning and challenged? How do we statistically move those in the middle? And what interventions are needed to help the low-performing students make gains and develop goals for the year? I strategically chose the school counselor, school psychologist, social worker, and athletic director to develop strategies for the goals around students' well-being. We schedule data check-ins throughout the school year to revisit each goal to determine a need to shift strategy or stay the course.
We'll pause again here for reflection. Based on these two voices from Maryland leaders, think about what you do in your professional practice that is aligned to the drivers, standards 1, 2, and/or 3. You can pause the webinar now to input your responses in the Word document. When you're ready to continue the session, press play.
This webinar provides a cursory glance at the standards, and there are many more opportunities for you to further explore them as they relate to improving professional practice. In this final section, we'll share specific information about guidance and resources available on the MSDE website and upcoming in-person professional learning experiences. We'll also share next steps for submitting documentation of your participation in this session. Our Office of Leadership Development and School Improvement web link is provided here. Check out the site at marylandpublicschools.org, as well as the Maryland Resource Hub at marylandresourcehub.com. To navigate to other parts of this webinar series, access the PSEL rubric and locate more detailed information about upcoming professional learning opportunities. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us with questions. We've included our contact information. My name is Ed Mitzel, Coordinator of Leadership Development, and you can contact me by email at edmund.mitzel@maryland.gov. And I can be reached by phone at 410-767-0348. And my colleague, Dr. Brian Iyer, who is a Leadership Development Specialist, can be reached at brian.eyer@maryland.gov or by phone at 410-767-0725.